Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. Welcome to WowBiz, Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. If you work with the Chamber of Commerce, if you're an economic developer, if you belong, if you're a member of a Chamber of Commerce, or maybe somebody who used to be a member and has stepped away from that organization, you've got to listen to today's show here on WowBiz, Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker with my good friend, Mr. Bruce Arendt. Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
You bet. Thanks for being here again today. But before we get into that, and by the way, it's a fascinating topic, we're going to talk about a new way, a new source, a new resource for chambers that might enable them to stay vital and attract more action and so on. But before we get into that,
right?
Yeah. Bruce, one of the things that I'm so fascinated about, you remember Tom Peters, he's still alive, he's an incredible thinker, very foresighted, and he's got a really great little chart here about how things in business used to be and how they are today.
Okay.
And I think it's a clarifying thing just to go through this now and then. So I'm gonna let you know, we'll go quickly and I'll get your thoughts. First of all, right off the top, a job for life or career.
Right.
That was then.
Yeah.
Now it's a life full of jobs,
Boy, that's true.
which are referred to as projects. They're not even jobs anymore.
Right.
They're just projects.
That's true. I mean, I think my father was in the same work pretty much for 50 years.
Oh, yeah, yeah. My father only changed his career once when he was forced to in the 60s, but he adapted. Yeah. But this is a whole thing. Somebody just told me the other day, he said in about 30 years, there will be, and I hope I'm quoting him correctly, I think you were in the room actually, about 30% of us won't be working at all, and the remaining workforce will all be contract workers, will all be freelancers, everybody doing their own thing, maybe 2, 3, 4 gigs at a time.
Yeah, it's a completely different game.
It really is, and he saw this, so that has tremendous implications. The next one is clunky bureaucracies plodding towards success.
Okay.
That's how things used to be, as opposed to today when we are talking about agile alliances failing their way to success.
Huh. I think we still have some clunky bureaucracies out there.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah, I agree.
But I think the newer, more nimble startups, people like that, those kind of companies, I think they're a little lighter on their feet.
And they don't take failure quite as seriously. Now, I don't know how that the implications financially are, that's a different discussion, but they seem to just absorb the failure and learn something quickly and tweak and go on.
Yeah.
I think that's where he's coming from. All right, let's go on to the third one. You'll love this. In the old days, accountants rule. In the new era, innovators rule.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that's probably arguable.
Yeah.
I think, without innovation, with technology just screaming ahead like this.
Yeah.
I think you've got to be on top of that.
I think there are some pretty sharp accountants out there that are probably even nodding their heads, saying, well, we strive to be innovative as well. But that's a very interesting dichotomy. All right, we'll go on. Success to failure cycles last decades. Success to failure cycles last decades. In the future, success to failure cycles last months. Oh, I kind of get that now.
I totally get that,
Yeah.
I think people can just flame out really quickly.
Yeah, and as opposed to maybe 20 years, it just has not come around. So yeah, very interesting. Now here we go again. In the old days, technology supported change.
Okay.
This is heavy. Secondly, in the new era, technology drives change.
Okay. Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
That is true, though. I mean, when you think about that.
The technologists that I talk to, they would agree with that. But I think they seem to not know how to drive change in a broad way. I mean, they can talk about efficiency and productivity on the job and latest CRM and all that, but they don't seem to be change masters in a broader sense, like leadership.
Right.
You don't hear IT guys talking about the new era of leadership.
No, that's kind of two different
deals.
Things. Yeah.
But so that's an interesting thing. All right, finally, upstarts disrupt occasionally. That's how it used to be. Upstarts disrupt occasionally. Today, upstarts disrupt constantly.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Oh, I think that's I think that's how things move forward with all the disruption.
You know, there's a lot of people right now that I know personally, mature business people, many of them very successful, and they would tell me if they were here, I don't like the word disruption, all right? I don't like it. We want smooth transition. We want to stay up to speed, but disruption makes me very uncomfortable.
And I get that, but I think disruption is what drives people to think of a newer, better way. And I mean, you have to keep up with the guy who's on your tail.
I think you're right, but I think we have put our finger on a very touchy subject.
Yeah.
Because companies that I deal with will say, you know, I don't want to disrupt anything, but I want to get ahead of everybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So then we go on to industry rules. This is the old days. Industry rules etched in stone. Industry rules are etched in stone, and now industry definitions are scribbled in quicksand. I would agree with that.
Yeah, things can change so quickly that you have to be able to change with them.
Yeah, I mean, we talked before about Amazon and all that, and that's an industry in itself, and it's definitely changed retail and so on, distribution industry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and then finally, in the past, we're wrapping up, by the book management, right? Rewrite the ebook improvisation. Now this is a very interesting thing. You know, I've worked around, for instance, the publishing industry a little bit, the newspaper industry,
right?
And this would be one that they would gag on. You know, at least back in a few years ago,
right?
Because their attitude is, we are by the book. We're sharp people. We know what to do, and da 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 da. And the whole notion of kind of making it up on the fly would really go against their grain. But I think it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, and I think that like the traditional publishing model of like book publishers that I've worked with, that was always very much written in stone. But now, you know, with ebooks and things like that, they've had to kind of really rethink and retool.
But how long does it take to rethink? That's another question, you know. There's a great book by Adam Grant called Think Again, and he talks about the importance of rethinking all your assumptions. We've discussed this before,
right.
But you know, somebody can say, well, we're going to rethink that, and they might take 2 years to rethink it.
Yeah.
You know, but now it might be, you know, 2 months.
Yeah.
You know,
because 2 years is not. That's not going to.
You know,
that's way too slow.
It won't be relevant then anymore either.
No.
All right. Well, Bruce Aaron, thank you so much. It's great to be here with you. And thank you so much for watching us here on WowBiz Nebraska. That is a really awesome way to begin the show.
Yeah.
You know, it really sets the tone.
We always have an awesome way of doing the show, right?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Well, listen, we, as you know, we'll shift the topic right now to chambers of commerce.
Okay.
And the challenge that they have in local levels, they all are working and hustling and doing things, and they have activities and so on. So we want to recognize and respect that. But it's more and more difficult to engage with the audience. There's so many things to do. They're off doing a meetup. They're not coming to the chamber event. They're going to an Eventbrite event.
Right.
That can happen.
Right.
And you know, then the next thing is you know, membership itself and revenue and how much money is coming in, and the staff.
Yeah.
You know, they seem to get a little, in some organizations, a little smaller.
Right.
By the way, Omaha would be an exception to that. I think they're a very robust organization. But there are many that are, I think, just trying to figure out what can we do other than what we're doing.
Right, because they're faced with all the new different platforms for people to meet.
Yeah, they got great competition.
Yeah.
And the younger people, in general, I think, are the ones that are maybe the toughest to recruit.
Right.
But here's the thing, and you'll understand this, when you don't know what to do, in the end, you go to the end user, right? You get right out there and you talk to business owners in the local community.
Right.
And we've both done that off and on throughout our careers. And so you chat with them and they say, well, what about the chamber and how you doing, blah, blah, blah. And they'll say, we need help, is what they say. 60 to 70% of them say, we need help. And we're not able to really get anything at the chamber. They're nice people and they put on some nice events, but we need advice that allows us to keep up with the changes.
Yeah, some kind of hands-on advice.
Hands-on advice that's customized around what it is that they do and so on. And we can't get that. Nobody in the community or in the chamber seems to have much of that. I mean, there are some very bright people, don't get me wrong, but they know their industry.
Right.
I think what we're talking about here is we need something that's applicable in a broader context.
Okay.
So we put together, and I say we, Nebraska has put together a service and an offering. We're just getting ready to launch it. And I want you to critique this and fine-tune it for me, right? And then we'll head into the mid-show. The idea there is to go out to, I don't care who it is, it could be Wahoo, Fremont, Alliance, whatever.
Right.
And help them attract an audience, members and non-members. Very important. So it's clear to everybody in the local community that we're having somebody come in, got a little bit of background, got a little bit of experience that he can leverage, the Taco Bell thing and some other things. And so we do a seminar maybe at 8 or 8:15 in the morning, a breakfast seminar.
Right.
And I come in there and I do that for maybe 45 minutes, something like that. And so everybody just kind of gets together, has coffee and breakfast, and they hear a new message about change and innovation.
It's the whole business community, not just the chamber people.
Correct.
Okay.
Because one of the objectives of this is to attract new members to the local chamber.
Yeah.
And they will tell you that's a tough thing and a good thing. But also renew. There are a lot of people out there that are members, but they haven't paid their dues for 2 months, and I don't know. Yeah. And you got to get them to renew. Yeah. So we've got 2 objectives there.
Kind of spark some new interest on both ends.
Right. Yeah. Right. New ideas. And then after the breakfast is over, then I would agree, and this will be done in advance, of course, to meet with 6 individual business owners throughout the day. I'd go into the conference room with them. I'd spend 45 minutes with each of them.
Wow.
So really kind of get into it. Talk about their industry, talk about the trends, talk about their business model, where they think their strengths and weaknesses are. Maybe try to point out a couple options, and maybe even some positioning and marketing suggestions, that kind of thing. And
that's some very targeted consultation.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I want them to walk out of there with something tangible.
Right.
And maybe a little more hope and positivity. Now they might say, look, I can't implement all this. Well, that's a different subject.
That's fine, but at least providing some
you know there are choices, there are options, there are things you can look at. Right. Take a 15-minute break, maybe have a snack or whatever, and then go right back in with the next one, 45 minutes at a time. So about 5:30 we wrap up. All right? And I go home. Now, obviously the staff is going to be coming. How did it go? Did you like that? By the way, would you like to join the chamber?
Right.
You know, I mean, that's normal and appropriate to do. But what they get there, and then let's say, for instance, 1 or 2 of these guys say, or gals say, we might want to have you come over and kind of get into a little deeper. Work with us a little closer, maybe for a few months. All right. And we'll have a fee for that. But whatever that fee is, there will be a small portion of it, which will be a referral fee, and we'll get that back to the chamber.
Back to the chamber.
That's right.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Now we are going to charge. We'll wrap this up. $500 for that day-long, right? $500. Now I normally charge $1,000 a day.
Right.
All right. That's kind of normal in our industry. But $500 to do the seminar, come all the way out wherever they're at, and then meet with these individuals.
Wow.
Because that's where they're at. That's their income level. They have a modest income and a modest revenue and all that. So we want to price ourselves in such a way that they're comfortable, that they can handle that. And by the way, we might be able to break even on this thing. You know, after a few months, you start to kind of get a little momentum.
Right.
And I'd be coming out there once a month, every single month for, indefinite period of time with a new message, new idea, et cetera, et cetera.
But that sounds like a win-win. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for me to be able to get out there, meet their client, might be able to pick up a couple clients.
Right.
But more importantly, it gives them new energy, new focus, and say, hey, we do this.
Yeah.
We do this. We're actually giving you, now line up, line up so that you can meet with this guy.
And again, whether or not they can implement every idea, that's not the point. It's a matter of...
Not at that stage.
Not at that stage.
Right.
But having the opportunity to think some things through that they hadn't thought of before.
I think it's invaluable.
Yeah.
And here's why. Let's talk about the statistics real quick. Only 37% of all business people like their strategy. I mean, right there alone, that should be enough to justify coming over and seeing this crazy guy, right? Only 35% currently think that they will succeed with what they're doing.
That's kind of dire.
That's a tough thing, man.
Yeah.
So we dig into it go a little further. We say, why? And they say, well, we need new ideas, we need some new projects and stuff like that. 70% say it's just too difficult for us to think outside the box and build a new idea. Yeah. I believe that.
It is hard to think outside of your own. If you've been doing the same thing, it's just hard to do.
And then finally, they come out and they say 68% of them want more advice, And they'd like advice from their peers, people that they respect is what they're getting at.
Right.
Somebody that kind of knows me and knows what we do, and we'd like some outside advice. So there you go. That's a potential new service that will be available to chambers across the state. And I think it's a terrific idea. And as you said before, win-win.
Starting in 2023?
Well, yeah, 2023. That's only a few days away. So
yeah.
Absolutely. That'll be the kickoff. So.
Okay. Awesome.
You think we got something going there?
I think so.
I think hopefully. I mean, I don't expect everybody to go for it.
It seems like a good value, though, for the money.
That's right. That's right. I'd like to see a bunch of them lined up saying, I'll stay here until 8 o'clock. I need the advice.
Yeah. Well, that'd be the hope.
Okay. Well, Bruce, Aaron, great job. Great input on this thing. I appreciate it greatly. We're going to talk about the organization that sponsors our show, which is Nebraska Plus. We're going to add that plus there. It's very important that people understand this is a little bit different from Nebraska. Nebraska is a business-oriented consulting firm, of course. Nebraska Plus is a civic revitalization organization. And we bring some new thinking to communities that are trying to figure out primarily how do we retain these young people, and God forbid we'd like to attract some new young people and couples and whatever. We don't know if we're supposed to change the change the community, change Main Street, etc. We've studied these people for many years. We know what they like. We know what they're looking for from a community. Certainly they have business desires and so on, but we'll focus right now on the community itself. Now, this is where our word urban natural comes up. You've heard this before. Urban natural design focuses on contrast, typically wood with metal. So they're looking at buildings. They want to live and work in buildings, ladies and gentlemen, in buildings that have an exterior facade and possibly an interior that blend in high contrast right next to each other, wood and glass, organic and synthetic. This is a style or a trend you see all over the country, by the way. It's becoming more and more popular. You go inside a business or a residence, and I'm talking primarily downtown, although you could easily set up a neighborhood node kind of on the edge of town and have all these urban natural buildings, some residential, some commercial, some offices, etc. You could do that there. But the key is this, it's got to be walkable. Right? They got to be able to come down from the second floor and walk across the street. There's got to be some squarish, kind of a pedestrian open area where cars aren't zooming back and forth. And they meet you in the middle of the street and there's a water treatment there or something. So when you see the word urban natural, the natural part implies organic, green, water, a place where people can kind of feel, it's almost park-like is what we're looking for there. And you and I both know that when you're uptight and you're over-focused on your job, if you take a stroll through a park or something like that, you do relax, and it's really a great place to think creatively.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a psychological spark or something that happens when you're seeing two opposing materials like that.
It's been proven. You're on a track. I got to tell you, it's actually been proven that it stimulates, very quickly of course, it stimulates the visual cortex in the brain, and all human beings, and have a little bit of dopamine, kind of a good feeling. It's good vibes.
Yeah.
And I love that phrase because it's really scientifically true. If you adopt or embrace urban natural design, you'll attract urban natural knowledge workers. So that's the purpose and the overall idea with Nebraska Plus. And we're hoping that people will say, hey, Lynn, why don't you come out and do a seminar or some kind of a workshop and tell us what our city must become. This is the issue. Many people they don't know. We understand that we should change and evolve, but we don't know what we should evolve into.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. What do we do?
So there you go. Nebraska Plus, that gives you a big picture. They're bringing the show to you, and we're right back now focusing on something very different and unusual. But if you want to know more about Nebraska Plus, contact Nebraska Online. It's right there under Nebraska Plus. You'll find it easily on Nebraska.com. All right, Bruce, we got a little bit of time here left on Nebraska. There are a WowBiz on the show here, and I'd like to visit with you about, because you're a marketing guy, you and I have been in the business for some time.
Right.
And of course, everybody talks about video, and here we're doing video right now. This is, of course, a good thing. But if you want to get the attention of people, you have to try different variations.
Right.
We talked about podcasting. That's an interesting variation for an organization. But one of the things that I've had some success with and done a lot of is creating videos like we're going to look at together right now. And they're kind of like slideshows.
Okay.
All right. In other words, we're using static photo images.
Okay.
But they move, and sometimes there's music.
Okay.
Right. And they're usually up with text. Kind of, there's a message, and so that's the idea is to get somebody to engage them rather than just reading an email.
Right. So it's bite sizes of some visual stimulation. And
exactly.
Information.
And there's always the temptation to have too much, maybe, write too much or have too many pictures. I struggle with that. The younger folks will say, I just want 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk to you about a partnership between Nebraska and the Daily Record.
Okay.
They're a 100-year-old publication.
Right.
Legal listings, and they've got a new ownership team, and they're very busy with the articles and the journalists and getting it out there every day.
Yeah.
So they want to have an advertising program, as every publication does. So they've partnered with us. They've asked Nebraska to get involved in that way, and it's our job to organize and sell advertising. But we've chosen to do a kind of an unusual thing. We're building the advertising campaign around podcasting.
Oh. Okay.
All right? Because it's kind of unique and hip and young. And then they also have, they'll put you on the back. Your picture would be great, by the way. Right on the back of the Daily Record.
People could use it for a dartboard.
The full thing, baby. And so, I mean, right there. And then, of course, online. Their website has it. Okay. Now, guess how many, I always have to ask you to guess how many views. This is the most relevant thing you're going to hear come out of my mouth all day. How many views do you think they get a week?
A few thousand.
A few thousand. 4,500.
Wow.
Not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Now, if you were hanging out in some of the places I've been recently working with the Daily Record and talking to the people out in the field that read the paper, that actually care, and go to the website, very important. I mean, these are attorneys, bankers, financiers, real estate people, bright people, accomplished people.
And people involved probably in the evolution of business and how things are growing.
Yeah, they're definitely influencers.
Yeah.
And they are reading this publication or going online, especially now that the publication is really publishing some solid articles about what's happening in the state and so on. They're hooked up with the Nebraska Examiner and so on. So good stories.
Okay.
Yeah. But we're building the pitch rather around the podcast, but we're calling the sales campaign Triple Play.
Oh.
What do you think about that?
What are
Triple Play.
I like it, but what are the three?
Well, three obviously would be the podcast.
Okay.
The back page placement, owning the back of the page for a week.
Oh.
Every day for 5 days.
Okay.
That's you.
Yeah.
And then owning a large display ad right on the home page, right there for 7 days. So 7 days online, 5 days in the paper, and then of course a podcast could be here forever.
It goes on forever.
It's not going away.
What's the number for that? And what's the
$2,500.
Oh, really? Well, that's a lot.
Yeah, $2,500.
That's a lot of bang for your buck.
I think so. I mean, value is something that's rather relative, But let's take a quick look at this.
Okay.
Let's take a quick look at this pitch, and let's see if it feels right to you. And I'm going to hit the on button here, the play button, and here we go.
Get it up on the overhead projector.
Yeah, exactly right. There they are. These are the new publishers. There's Jason Huff and his wife. 4,500 buyers right off on the very beginning.
Wow.
All right. So I mean, I've chosen here to leverage that very prominently and early.
Okay. Well, that makes sense because that's.
And we're 3 slides in, and I'm giving them asking for the order. Somebody's going to say, "Well, what is it?"
Okay, like I did.
Yeah,
So
and there they are. They're the 3 components. All right, I'm going to reiterate it again, kind of summarize quantum recognition and respect. And of course, a lot of people are sales oriented that we're talking about here, so we're kind of moving in. Here is nothing has performed better than my podcast. I've absolutely sold more homes because of my podcast.
That's powerful, right?
That's great, isn't it?
Well, what was the deal with Harvard?
Well, that was. Hadn't you heard this story? I'll keep it real quick. I did some. I interviewed a bunch of entrepreneurs across Nebraska for UNL.
Okay.
10 years ago, and then they put them up on iTunes,
Okay.
and they had a university segment.
Okay.
They don't have it anytime, but they did then.
Okay.
Thousands of colleges are on that.
Wow.
Okay. Before we got started, the #1 college was Harvard, and these are all podcasts,
Right.
all videos, I think, at that time. Harvard, MIT, Stanford, and Wharton Business School.
Wow.
We're the top 4, and you'd expect that. They're great business colleges.
Top shelf.
Right. We did these interviews. I did 2 people every week and then 2 with them. So 4 interviews every week go up on iTunes.
Wow.
In behalf of UNL. That's what this is all being done for.
Sure.
And in 2 months, I got a phone call and they said, come to Lincoln and we want to chat. I got there. There's this big group of people standing there with big grins on their faces. UNL became #1
Wow.
on iTunes, knocking off Harvard, Wharton, MIT, and Stanford. We're top of the line, baby.
Oh my gosh. So that's the power of podcasts or videos or what
Yes,
that type of
but
thing.
you have to
Yeah.
put them up regularly. See,
Right.
that's part of the thing. A lot of people don't really know that.
Right.
All right, let's continue on here and wrap up. But any other additional thoughts you have? Obviously, we're kind of moving quickly here and getting towards the end of our show.
So most, okay, let's talk
We'll
about
call
this
this
for a
On the
second.
Record.
Yeah.
That'll be the name of the podcast. I'll say, I've got Bruce Arndt here with me. Welcome to On the Record, Bruce. We're going to talk about your incredible career and accomplishments and why you can serve the universe just being who you are. All right, I mean, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, 8 minutes and so on. But the problem that we have is the people that read the paper and really know something and respect the Daily Record.
Right.
Respect's key. They're older. They're probably 50 plus.
Okay.
Well, they don't really know anything about podcasts. They may not have heard of it, and they've certainly never purchased a podcast appearance. So that's a little difficult. The people that love podcasts and listen to one podcast for 2 hours,
Right.
they're the people that don't know anything about Daily Record and you know, don't spend much time looking at
So
it.
it's a matter of getting the two sides together.
Well,
there,
yeah, I
right?
don't know how
Yeah.
exactly you do that. You got to find a very progressive older person.
Yeah, but man, I tell you what, the whole platform of podcasts is huge.
Well, it's massive and it's growing rapidly.
Yeah,
but it takes a while to reach the older folks.
Right.
So that's a very challenging thing. So we're moving forward here real quick on our presentation. This is a sales presentation we're going to send around the entire city, of course, and ask them to contact us if they're interested in a podcast interview.
Yeah.
$2,500 for the podcast and the 2 placements inside the paper and on the website.
But to have 8 minutes of targeted information about yourself, or you know, in a
Changed my life, you know.
Yeah.
Changed my life.
I think that's powerful.
Well, I hope so. I think so too. But like I said before, there are a lot of people that are just unfamiliar with it.
Right.
And they don't quite know how to do it. And they don't know anybody their age that's done it. You know, that's always, we're out the leading edge.
And I'm not just saying this, but you've done this sort of thing so often in
Many
terms
times.
of interviewing people. You make it easy.
Well,
and, you know.
I'd like to think that that's the case, exactly. There I am interviewing somebody out in Lexington and so on. Here we summarize it. There are people that sell the same package for $3,500. We do it for $2,500, and we throw in the paper and the website for 7 days. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's quite a bit more.
That's a
great
good
value.
deal. Yeah.
A power partnership and force multiplier. You know, when we come back next time on the show, that's the very first thing I'd like to visit with you is, what is a force multiplier?
Okay.
It's a very interesting phrase.
Okay.
Well, Bruce, thank you so much. We're wrapping up WowBiz Nebraska. Thank you so much for watching us. We will see you next time right here on this particular station. See you soon. Thanks for watching.